Hello, the Chelsea fans, you're welcome to the channel. So, talk about not so much to talk about, but because it seems like every sort of Chelsea transfer is that with regards to incomings has something to do with outgoings. It's linked to a particular outgoing. So, for instance, Nkunku, to Javi to Chelsea apparently is tied to outgoings like Nkunku or Nicolas Jackson, and Bayern Munich are sort of rumored to have agreed personal terms with Nkunku and are looking to move forward to respect to getting him to sign. You know, with them, I think that'll be a good move for him because they have Champions League, and in terms of his pay package or wage demands, I think that one of the only clubs that can match his wage demands, in my opinion. So I think that would be a good one. Nicolas Jackson still remains up in the air where he possibly could be going to. So let's see how that shakes down. But there's something I want to talk about before I go on to talk about things that are sort of in the title and as well that are in the thumbnail as well. But first off, I want to say kudos to Chelsea for giving part of the earnings from the Club World Cup to Jota and his brother's family. So that's really, really touching. That's really, can I say, class act as class from them. So brilliant. So everyone that was involved in making the decision, from players to coaches to the management staff, Paul Stanley and the rest, that's really, really good from them. And then now, also there's other thing that I don't really want to talk about, but I'll just mention it in passing. I think the best payment, best reward for a player like Jimmy Carragher is not to even talk about it because he will always say the nonsense he would say. That's it. So I'll just push that to the side and then I'll move on. So it seems every Chelsea transfer at this minute in terms of incomings is dependent, it's tied to outgoings, and that's quite understandable because we've done a lot of buying, João Pedro, Liam Delap, Salvaio, Gittins, and they've all been at least north of £30 million. And then, of course, you're expecting to get the Garnacho in, you're expecting to get the Xavi Simons in. So with all those players you're expecting to get in, you definitely need to get players out for FFP and PSR reasons. I know a lot of Chelsea fans wouldn't be too sort of excited about outgoings, but you have to do it. And certainly not excited about was as excited for outgoings as they would be for incomings. But if you want your Garnacho, if you want your Xavi Simons at this point in the season, at this point in the off-season, right, transfer window season, you need to get players to leave. So apparently, Bayern Munich have agreed personal terms with Nkunku. Now it's left for club-to-club discussions, according to what Fabrizio has said. So let's see how that shakes down. I just pray that Chelsea don't overprice, Nkunku, don't price him out of a move. I know what the could possibly be thinking of is let's get as much as we can get, with respect to what we've paid. And just like I said to fans of other clubs, sometimes you don't get your money back. Sometimes you don't get your money back. But what you get in return is once you've got that player off your books, you've got his wage bill off your books as well. And you can then direct those funds to paying for other players that you'll be signing in. So for me, this deal should be done. Bayern Munich, they have the money, they have Champions League football, and I think that's what he wants. RB Leipzig is more of an emotional move for him. I frankly don't mind where he goes to, as long as he leaves Chelsea and gets to play, because right now, like I say, his head is gone from Chelsea. So let's see how that shakes down, how that shapes up. Now, Nicolas Jackson is one that's more up in the air because I've not really seen any club, agree even personal terms with him. Not talk about doing club-to-club sort of discussions or negotiations. We've heard that he's on the list for Manchester United, but they've got Sesko. We've heard that he's on the list of Newcastle United. They tried to get Sesko, didn't get Sesko. So are they really going to pull out all the stuff to get Nicolas Jackson? Nicolas Jackson, if another player, I just hope that Chelsea do not price themselves out of a deal, because I know they're putting valuations like £80 million. If I'm completely honest, I don't think he's worth £80 million in my humble opinion. But the market has been crazy. I don't think Benjamin Sesko is worth €75 million, but that's what he's gone for. So maybe they're able to get a deal like that for Nicolas Jackson. I'm telling you at this point, if Chelsea get even a £40 million, £50 million, get Jackson off your books. I know a lot of fans are in this competition, which I really don't care about. This competition about which club can sell which their players, or the players they don't want, or what they call deadwood. I don't see any players deadwood anyways. Can sell their player for the most amount of money. For me, some point to get players off your books. If you can make £5 million in profit, that's good. Get the player off your books, let the player go play, and then you know you can then bring in new signings, and then you have um, a less toxic environment. So you don't have a toxic environment. So Nicolas Jackson, let's see how he moves. For me, I prefer he goes outside of the Premier League. I think he's someone that can go on to become a bogeyman for Chelsea. So each time Chelsea gets to play Newcastle United, if he goes there, he may just be one of those players that always seem to score. Chelsea score against Chelsea. So I would much prefer if he leaves the Premier League entirely, but if he doesn't leave, that's fine as long as he's off Chelsea's books. And I've said this, sound like a broken record. I don't really see the need for Garnacho, but apparently the higher ups see some value in getting Garnacho in the building. Some see him as competition for Gittins. Some Chelsea fans see Garnacho as being better than Gittins. Some say better than Noni Madueke was at Chelsea. I don't see that, but if it comes, we support him as usual. So all these deals seem to be tied to outgoing the Xavi Simons and the Garnacho deal. Now, in the previous live stream yesterday, I did talk about Manchester City's interest in Xavi Simons, and they're still flirting around, hoping and flirting around maybe with the possibility of making a move for him. Now, there's one report, not a report, but I was watching a video on the London is Blue podcast, I think, and they had Ben Jacobs on the podcast, on the channel, watching. There's something he said that really didn't make any sense to me. Say something about that Chelsea are working in silence. They don't want to make a bid. For instance, if they made a bid of £55 million and it was accepted by RB Leipzig, then the Manchester City club like Manchester City you could have the fear of Manchester City hovering around, to make a deal for the player. For me, it doesn't make any sense. If you make a bid and the club offers, and the club accepts the bid, that RB Leipzig accepts the bid, then it makes no sense why you can't get the player. How does Manchester City then come in to get the player? For me, that doesn't make any sense in my opinion. Doesn't make any sense at all. In my humble opinion, Chelsea fans, if that makes any sense to you, let me know in the comment section, because for me, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you make a bid, it's accepted. That means it's good as done, especially if we have to believe that the reports that have been making the rounds all through this transfer window that Chelsea have indeed agreed personal terms, with Xavi Simons. So I don't see why that should even be a problem. I don't see the issue there. So, but it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe we're trying to say something else and he didn't quite, elucidate or explain what it was saying, or articulate what it was saying properly. Maybe, we all have that. You can notice that sometimes during this live stream as well. But fair play. But I get with, but overall, players need to go out before we can get the Xavi Simons in, before we can get the Garnacho in. So Princess Chelsea will get Garnacho, increase his value, and flip. Fair play. So possibly able to get him for 30 million, and hopefully that's what they're looking to do. Get Garnacho for 30 million, and then sell him maybe after 12 months after 6 months, and sell him for maybe £45 million, £50 million maybe to Arsenal, who are our very good customers, since we Chelsea are very good customers that are the best customers for Brighton. Arsenal apparently are Chelsea's best customers. We always do good deals with Arsenal. So maybe that could be what will happen with Garnacho, especially like Prince rightly said, you have Quenda coming in, next season. So and that's how I see it. And then the Veiga deal as well. There's talk about Veiga. He seems to be willing to go to any club. Like he's willing to go to Dortmund. When you hear Benfica, they say price is not an issue. When you talk about Dortmund, they say price is not an issue. So he's really willing to go anywhere. It's just Chelsea, reaching an agreement with particular clubs. And most of the clubs that are coming in on the flip side of things are rather insisted on loan deals when Chelsea actually want an outright sale. And I think for me that's what makes sense. Because at this point, you don't want to be loaning out players. You don't want to be loaning out, yeah, full grown, fully experienced player like Veiga, that's a full Portuguese international right now, that needs to be playing first in minutes. You don't want to be loaning him out. If you're not going to keep him in house, then it's best to let him go, in my opinion. Then it's best you let him go on a permanent deal. And then one other Chelsea player has said he is disappointed with the way Chelsea has dealt with players and he doesn't want to play for Chelsea anymore. And he is currently Chukwuemeka. He's been linked to a move to Dortmund. And recently we've heard West Ham United have made an offer for the player, or rather thinking of making an offer for the player. Now, I know Chelsea fans may be taken aback a bit when you hear someone like Kan Chukwuemeka say he doesn't want to play for the club. I doesn't like the way the club treats players. And Chelsea fans will want to get upset, but it's true. I know we want the players off the books, we want them gone. People call them dead wood and stuff, you know. And then you're not too happy when a player criticizes the club. But that's just how it is because right now some players feel like they're being treated like animals, like objects, where we don't want to keep you aside. You don't care so much about the emotional well-being. I don't think that's all too great, but this is the business of football. That's how it is. It's a bit cutthroat, and I think Kanichi Kiremeka was just beset with so much injuries under Pochettino, and for whatever reason, Enzo Maresca didn't fancy him, and I think he's not alone in that sort of bracket because Enzo Maresca didn't really fancy Nkunku, he didn't really fancy Jao Felix, and Kanichi Kiremeka sort of fell into that category as well. That of players he didn't really fancy. So fair play. If he goes to West Ham, fine as well. But although I'll be happy if he does go to Dortmund, at least he goes outside the league and he can play there. And in my own Nigerian way, I want to go to Dortmund so he can play and Chelsea can have a look at him. But speaking about Chelsea, this is Up Chelsea TV. Hopefully all these outgoings are sorted out because if these outgoings don't happen, this we wouldn't have the incomings. And for me, I don't want any transfer deadline day headache. I don't want any transfer deadline day headache. Now, you're welcome to the channel. If you're just joining the stream, we've been talking about Chelsea's income is tied to players that have to leave, like your Nkunku. Apparently, Bayern Munich are hot for him. They're looking to sign him, and hopefully Chelsea can agree a deal with Bayern Munich. They supposedly have agreed terms with Nkunku, and of course talk about Nicolas Jackson possibly could be leaving, but there's no concrete offer from any club. He's been on the list of many clubs like Manchester United, but they've got Sesko on the list of Newcastle United. They want the Sesko. Now they're looking at other sort of targets, like they're looking at Samuel Gehowa as opposed to looking at Jackson. So the question is, where does he go to? It's quite funny. Some reports say Chelsea are willing to reintegrate into the team if no move happens, while some other people say it's 100% done between Chelsea and Jackson that they're looking for him to leave. Now, if I'm Jackson, I'm leaving. If I'm Jackson, I'm gone because you need to go to where you actually got to play. Because let's not forget, you've got the AFCON coming on up for one, and then of course you also have the World Cup. This is a World Cup season as well. After the season is over, you head into the World Cup, and if you're not playing regularly, that's it done for you. So for me, I think fair play, Nicolas Jackson should go. But there's some players that are managing to somehow still remain at the club, and you don't even have any concrete offers for them to leave, or even any report about clubs really seriously coming for them. And one of them I must talk about is Raheem Sterling. Earlier on in the transfer window, let's talk about Fulham. Now, after that seems to have died off and tailed off. No one seems to be interested in Raheem Sterling. I'm thinking probably his wages could be an issue as well. I think he can still do a job for some club, especially a club that will look at him as the star player at the club. I think he can do well at the club where Fulham, where they can see him as this is our main man, this is our boss player, where everything flows through him. But I don't think right now he can do a job for a team like City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal. I don't think so. Maybe He needs to go lower down the ranks, maybe West Ham, maybe Fulham, maybe Sunderland even, or these newly promoted sides. At some point ahead, Leeds United are interested in him. I'm not quite sure he can fit in Daniel Farker's system. I'm not sure because they play, high octane football, and we know from what I saw of Sterling at Chelsea, he doesn't press. He doesn't press for anyone. So going to a team like Leeds where you're fighting for your survival, I don't think he's going to last long there, given the way they play. Maybe Sunderland, but I think Sunderland they've done a lot of business in the wide area, so that will not work. But he needs to get off the books. And there's one player that a lot of people kind of like, but I don't really rate him at all, and that is Benoit Badiashile. Now there's talk about him being, that he's now receiving support from the training and coaching staff. I wonder what that means. So is it maybe support to help him recuperate from his injuries and stuff like that? Maybe. I don't see why he's still at the club. I don't know why he's not ever on the list of players that need to go. Maybe Maresca likes him, and because the way he plays that from the back doesn't inspire me with confidence, and definitely I don't think he inspires his teammates with confidence at all. I think he used to be good at some point, according to what someone said, during one of the streams. But for me, I just feel like it's time for him to leave. It's time for him to go because I don't see him upstaging Tosin. He's not better than Tosin, in my opinion. I think rather than giving him a place, I think Aaron Anselmino should start instead, in my opinion. So Prince says if Jackson doesn't get a move, most likely on deadline day, he will go on loan to Spain, partly because he can still increase his value and maybe really what 60 million. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Because that's one thing with Italian clubs. When it comes to selling players, they can be very pricey. They sold Højlund to Manchester. Atalanta sold Højlund to Manchester United for 75 million euros. They had this £100 million thing on Victor Osimhen, so they always know how to demand heavy prices for the players. But when it comes to buying players, they're always very stingy. They always want to cry broke, So they always want to take the player on loan first and then see if they can mess with his head a bit before they now start demanding, now attempting to want to buy the player. So the player begins to push to leave because they manipulated his brain a lot. So that's it. So maybe he goes on loan to AC Milan, and he goes there and AC Milan bears the entire burden of his salaries, and then you can think about a move because AC Milan, I think, are desperate for a striker. They've let Tammy Abraham go to Besiktas. I don't know who do they have as a striker now. I don't think they have anyone who's a striker of note. I know they have that young kid, but it's still a ways away. Probably now will be 18 or so. So Jackson, maybe he goes there, and who knows? Maybe Jackson can go to Brighton. So, but I think, but Spain, you wonder where can he go to? Because the only three clubs can really afford Jackson, and two of them non-starter. So Real Madrid, there's no way he goes to Real Madrid because first off, even if they sign him, he's not going to play at all. Maybe has 30 minutes the whole season, so that's out of it. Barcelona is not going to play. They just got Rashford, and I think Flick isn't 100% out on Lewandowski, so that becomes really difficult to get any other striker that comes in to absolutely compete. You've got Rashford there, but Rashford is more of a gadget guy at this point in time for Barcelona, so that's why he fits in there. Now, before we talk about more possible outgoings, we need to also talk about the front of shirt sponsor. Now, according to Nisa Kinsella, they'll talk about Riyadh Air being one of the candidates to be front of shirt sponsor. I'm looking at between 60 and 80 million pounds for front of shirt sponsors. I think be able to get 60 million pounds, that'll be a very good deal. But I think this front of shirt sponsor is kind of something where it's being played out too long, in my opinion. Let's see what they're able to get. If they're able to get Riyadh Air to pay 65 million, 70 million, that'll be a very good price. A lot of people are going crazy because of the Club World Cup victory. I get it, but I prefer to get a front of shirt sponsor done as opposed to dragging it out, and then 10 seconds to the end of the season, you find one Dutch supermarket to sponsor or to be a franchise sponsor for 2 days, or find one odd construction company somewhere, want a franchise sponsor, maybe 2 year, 3 year deal. You have consistency with that one going into every season, and you had the revenue flowing, back to back to back continuously. All that is done. So talking of players that need to leave the club as well, Disasi. So Aston Villa were interested in Disasi at some point, and I was hoping that at some point he could actually go to Aston Villa. But the thing with Aston Villa is with the high line that Unai Emery plays sometimes. I don't know if he would be a really good fit for Aston Villa. But for me, I don't really care that much where these players go to, as long as they go, and get their wage bill off the books. So let's see how that all shakes down with respect to, Disasi. Because Disasi, he just doesn't suit the system. If you're playing under Jose Mourinho, where you would say you want to play typical central defenders, sit, be in front of the goalkeeper, give that protection, Disasi would have been very good. In fact, I prefer Disasi to Badiashile, in my opinion. I think he's actually a better defender than Badiashile. But the issue there is he doesn't have any pace. He has 0 legs. Playing instead of high line, he'll be trouble for you. Instead of high line, he'll be the weak spot that will always be attacked. We saw in the Leicester City game 2 seasons ago. He was in one area that Enzo Maresca incidentally was using Fatawu to attack. So for me, I just think, nah, he should be on his merry way. And then Tyreek George is someone I don't want to leave, but I just feel like if Garnacho comes, there's no way Tyreek George stays in the team. There's no way. The way I see it right now, there's no way Tyreek George stays in the team if Garnacho comes in. And for me, that would be really sad, because I said about Garnacho, I don't really see him as a needle mover. I don't see him as someone that really comes in and changes the life of people and just, comes and be super amazing. And a lot of people sort of see that in him. I don't. I don't think he's that much better than Tyreek George. It's just my opinion. So, and then Ben Chilwell as well. Ben Chilwell is funny. He has to go, but where would he go to? Because he's got a very poor injury record. He's a very good left back, very, very good left back. His demise as a Chelsea player started under Pochettino, when Pochettino started this nonsense of playing players out of position. If you see a very good left back and you take him and play him as a left winger, and incidentally, or rather, a lot of Chelsea fans at that time were in support of it. A lot of Chelsea fans were like, yeah, let him play up there. When he was 5 years old, he used to be a left winger at some club. I think that's where his issues really, really started at Chelsea, and he could no longer stay fit. So for me, I think fair play, he should move. But his wages is one thing, his injury record is another. How many clubs would be willing to take him and pay the wages that he's on? Maybe if he goes for a pay cut, maybe that would work. Maybe Saudi Pro League club will come in. It's funny that Al Nassr hasn't come in to try to get Sterling or Chilwell or Disasi, because right now, for their standards, they're trying to build like a super team. And Chelsea has supplied some players to that team. So João Felix has gone there. They're looking to get other players. They've gotten Koeman from Bayern Munich. And that also ties into Nkunku, because since Koeman has left, that's why they're now looking to get, and they're not looking to get Nkunku, on board. And for me, Nkunku is not a bad player. It's just that things just haven't worked out. First in, he signed for Chelsea, had a lot of injury problems, and then afterwards, after having those injury problems, when he became fit, he didn't have enough game time under Pochettino. Maresca played those preseason games, looked wonderful, and then once the season started, Maresca said, "Wow, you impressed preseason, but I'll play you wherever I choose to play." So his head is gone, so he has to leave. So, in other words, if we need Xavi Simons to come in, if apparently we need Garnacho to come in as well, a lot of outgoings need to happen. And question, what do you think of Riyadh Air as the front of shirt sponsor? What do you think of Riyadh Air? Or who would you prefer? even to be in front of shirt sponsor for me. As long as the shirt is fine, I'm going to get it. So that's what matters to me, really. For me, what matters to me, I don't really care who the front of shirt sponsor is. First, I'll get a good deal. So between 50 and 70, I don't 80 may just be stretching it way too much, in my opinion. So you get the front of shirt sponsor deal done. Um, let it be of a good value, and that's fine by me, in my opinion. So, you have any preferences for the chess sponsor? Any other players you're thinking should leave? Nkunku, what are your thoughts and opinion of Nkunku leaving? So let me know what you think. Now this one it looks nice. I want to know what you guys think about this one. It looks nice. I'm sure there's some fan that has done this. It looks nice. I'll share my screen. It looks nice. If this is what it ends up looking like, yeah, it's really good. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. If this is the front of shirt sponsor that they go for, I wouldn't mind at all. Because it looks really good. Clean, fits nicely under the Club World Cup badge, Champions badge. So it looks good, looks really nice. So if this is what it ends up being, then I'll definitely be rocking this for sure. I will definitely be rocking this Chelsea shirt. It looks simple. I like how the various variation of the blue sits. So I like this. I like this one. I like this one. So Prince says, I hope we really stop buying mismatched players moving forward, especially since we have something good going on with a good coach. Yeah, I just hope you get players that the coach wants because Maresca has proven that he's like a wily old fox sometimes. That some players could be signed and he just wouldn't use them. That's what he's proven. You know, the club may sign them and they won't use them. Like Jao Felix, good signing, but wasn't in the book, wasn't really someone that from day one that Enzo Maresca wanted. So I'm hoping if they're going all out to sign, Javi Simons is someone that indeed Enzo Maresca wants. Because I don't want another talented player just wasted. Because right now his position is a 10. So if Maresca knows that he wants to play Cole Palmer as a 10 all through the season for every game, then just call the sporting directors and say, hey, Paul, hey, Lawrence, I don't want Javi Simmons because Javi Simmons is not a winger. He just isn't a winger. So, uh, and that's why you have Nkunku struggling to get players like that out of the team, you know. And then as well, and one thing that Chelsea should be careful about when you're signing players, because if you sign all these players, and then when they have no value to you, that will reduce how much you can get for these players from parties that want to sign the players. So, Prince says, because when I was struggling, front of shirt sponsor should pay at least 60 million. Yeah, I think that's fair for me. I'm just looking at between 55 and 70. A lot of people are saying 80. So I'm going crazy and saying, I'm 100. Yeah, I know we're Club World Cup champions, but I don't think shirt sponsors go crazy when they want to sponsor shirts. But if Chelsea can get 100 million, that's fine because I think that would really broaden what Chelsea can do in the transfer window come next season. So, this Quenda question, I think, is something we need to answer. So if Quenda is coming in next season, right? 2026-2027 season. So if it's coming in, do you think Garnacho stays at Chelsea for more than one season, as for more than this season if he signed, or he ends up being sold off, or ends up being sold off? I just think Kenda is the long-term guy. Like Kenda is the long-term guy. So there's some report out here about Nkunku. talking about Nkunku, saying Bayern have a good personal terms. But once again, I say take this with a pinch of salt because it's not from your Honestins or your Fabrizio Romano. But although some people have now been fighting and arguing with, Honestin, it used to be just Fabrizio Romano. Now they're even arguing and fighting with Honestin, which is a bit of a joke to me. Like the connections and insights those guys have, let's face it, you don't have it. You're just on X tweeting. You don't have it. You're just on YouTube talking. You don't have the access. So I don't see why you're fighting with these people. And especially when things go wrong, they usually come up and explain why things have gone wrong with the transfer. But then get why people get irate with those things. But anyway, I don't know if it's cloud chasing or whatever. But so this is Bayern Munich have agreed personal terms with Christopher Nkunku on a contract until 2030. Frenchman wants to move to Bayern. Next step will be club to club talks with Chelsea to reach an agreement. His transfer would also pave the way for Javi Simons to join. So that's what I've been saying. That these transfers they seem to be linked. You know, the outgoings are super linked to incomings right now at this point in time. If players don't go, we're not going to sign anybody. So but now there's something I've noticed. Is tapping up. I want to ask people now, this tapping up thing, is it really a thing? Or is more or less something that when clubs don't want to sell a player, they just say, oh, tapping up. you know, yeah, is it really, really a thing? Or people just come up with it because right this no this is the definition of tapping up. If you go and you get an agreement with the player before you actually, discuss with the club and get a deal done with the club. That's the definition of tapping up. But it just all feels like, when clubs don't want you to sign a player, then they say, oh, it's been tapped up. But when they want to sign a player, go ahead, speak to the player and agree terms, and then we'll be okay to negotiate terms with you. So how much do you think is even a good deal for Nkunku? For me, anything right now not of 45 million pounds is a good deal for Nkunku. Nkunku is one of those deals where you just lick your wounds and just say, clean yourself up, dust yourself up, and just say, cut your losses. It's done. We have to lose something on this one and move on. Have him off your books. Get something in the covers for him and move on. Just like I keep saying to some Manchester United fans, you know, you just need to get what's his face, Jadon Sancho, off your books. You don't need to wait and insist on getting full price, getting 60, 80 odd million, because it's not going to happen. So Prince Ganacho will leave when Kenda comes in. Fair play, I agree with that one as well. Say 40 to 50 million for Nkunku. I think that's fair price as well, in my humble opinion. So fair play in that regard. I think 45 million, that's a good deal for Nkunku, in my opinion. Sterling, right now, I wouldn't mind 20 million for Sterling. Get him off the books as well and get the gigantic 300 plus thousand a week off the books, because I think that's something that people don't think about. The transfer window, the transfer fee, yes, it's always big, it's always huge, but the main something that's always recurrent is are the wages. So that's that. So what do you think about this Riot Air deal? Have any preferences for me? Riot Air works fine. So how many deals do you think Chelsea can actually sell off all these players by the end of the transfer window? Because the transfer window ends on the 1st of September, I think 12 a.m. on September 1st. That's when it ends. And Chelsea actually sell off all these players. Mhm. Yeah, that's not too much, so that's fine. And the sweat is mad. So, Princess, no, Chelsea can sell them all off. There will be a lot of last minute loan, I reckon. Yeah, that's a huge possibility, especially for the likes of Sterling. Because their wages are just his wage is just too much, and going. He's not getting any younger. Let's put it that way. Because I think is it 29 or 30? Let's see how old is Raheem Sterling. How old is Raheem Sterling? So he's 30 years old. Raheem Sterling, 30 years old. So I think for the first time I have to take this cap off because he's becoming too much. So Raheem Sterling is 30 years old. So for me, I don't think anyone would really want to, you know, pay that crazy transfer fee, pay any crazy transfer fee for him. So maybe, you know, he would have to leave on loan, and the sort of thing where they could Chelsea and the club could share his wages. So mhm. Yeah, I agree with this Chelsea fan what he's saying there. Share my screen in a minute. I'll be back. Yeah, so Chelsea fan saying this. So that I agree. I think it's safe to say Simons and Garnacho are Chelsea players. Main problem for us fans. Whatever. My opinion, selling Chilwell and Sterling. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. That's the issue. That's the problem right there because their wages are crazy, and most of the clubs interested in Sterling. Most of the clubs interested in Chilwell and all Champions League clubs and can't afford to pay, crazy wages. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, click notification bell, and also share this video who you feel will love sort of content like this. So, and then we're heading ever so closely, how you want to say it, to the start of the season. On Saturday, Chelsea will be taking on Crystal Palace. So the opinions of that game, who would you want to start that game? So for me, like I've already given my starting lineup with respect to that game. So I'm looking for Robert Sanchez going to start. Either ways, he'll start in goal. I don't think Jorgensen is even competition for him, in my opinion. And then as well, I'll be looking for Cucurella at left back. There's no question about that. Hato can always come in 20 minutes to go in the game at right back. Gusto played really well in the Club World Cup, but I'll go with James. In the midfield, of course, I'll go with Caicedo and Enzo. But something in me wants to see Esugo and Caicedo together, just absolutely lock down that midfield. Then, of course, will be Palmer. And then, of course, looking at the left wing, defense will start. Right wing, I think it's a toss up. It depends if Enzo Maresca wants to just unleash Estavallo instantly on the Premier League, or if he wants to really ease him in, because he's shown enough for me to start, in my opinion. So I'll go with Estavallo to start, Palmer in the 10, and João Pedro. I think João Pedro will be the guy that will be leading the line, that is the number one striker. And of course, you would have Liam Delap as the striker behind him. So there's some opinions on that sort of starting lineup. Who you want to see? And after the game, there'll be a match reaction, a live stream where I'll be reacting to the game, where I'll be giving my personal opinions on the game. So, and I would like you to join me here. If you want to join me here, you come click subscribe to Upjust TV, click the notification bell so you be notified once I go live on here, and you can join me either in the chats or actually join me and we'll have a discussion, live on the channel. So we're talking about Nkunku going to Bayern. Apparently, he's a good personal terms with Bayern Munich. I'd like to know your thoughts about that. Let me know in the chat. I think that's the best move that can happen. Whereas RB Leipzig are a club that are interested in him as well, but I don't think they can meet his wages. I think right now in Germany, Bayern Munich are about the only club that can really afford his salary and offer him Champions League football, as well as Dortmund as well. Dortmund are a team that are in the Champions League. Of course, they're always in the Champions League, and I think they also have the resources to pay his wages, although they're a bit miserly when it comes to paying out wages. So let's see how that one shakes down as well. I know Frankfurt are also in the Champions League, but I don't think they would want to go for Nkunku, in my opinion. So even with Bayern Munich, you ask yourself where he's going to play. Maybe he plays in that 10 role, seeing that Jamal Musiala is out injured and will be out for quite a while after he had the injury in the Club World Cup game versus Donnarumma. So maybe that's where he gets to play. And then speaking on Dortmund as well, of course, I'm still interested in Kani Chukwuemeka. And Kani Chukwuemeka said he wants to stay at Dortmund and he doesn't want to play for Chelsea anymore, according to reports, because he said he doesn't like the way Chelsea treats players. And while we love Chelsea, while we support Chelsea, we want Chelsea to win. We see Chelsea as bigger than the player. But sometimes you have to remember these players are humans. The human beings, they have feelings. So the way the club treats players sometimes, stockpiling talents and then just dumping them and selling them or pushing them away, players are not too happy about that. So I think he has to go still, because if you're having interest in Xavi Simons, and of course Cole Palmer is there, there's no way he plays in the 10. And I think that 10 role is about the only position that Kani Chukwuemeka can actually play for Chelsea, in my opinion. I don't see him as a left or right winger. So I think it's best he goes off to Dortmund. I don't even know why Chelsea didn't have including in the package for Gittins. Apparently, with all the financial regulations, the lawyers and accountants of these various clubs are trying to be smart and too sharp about things, sometimes overly so, because some deals that are pretty easy to do, they end up complicating it, in my humble opinion. And of course, we talk about the future of Jackson. He's been on the list for various clubs, but hasn't gone to any one of them. They haven't opted for him. He was on the list of Manchester United. They went for Sesko. He was on the list for Newcastle United, and Newcastle United at this point in time are desperate to get someone to the building. They didn't go for him, so they have their interest set on other players like Samuel Gehoua. So it makes me feel like, where would Jackson even leave the club? Maybe does he go to West Ham? I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe he can go to the Championship, because apparently right now Birmingham City have money to spend, and maybe they can even afford his wages. But I don't see him going there. I see him probably leaving the club. And maybe, who knows, he can go to Juventus, because at some point in time, Juventus were interested in signing him. Um, and now you have Vlahovic possibly leaving. But on the other side of things, Juventus have Kolomwani, who is interested, who really wants to make that known deal permanent, because he was known, who was sent on loan from PSG to Juventus, and he is desperate to remain, to make the move permanent to Juventus. So that could be an issue for Jackson going to Juventus. Speaking about Juventus, when I think about Garnacho and I see um, Yildiz, and I see Kenan Yildiz at Juventus, I ask myself, what are we doing? Shouldn't he be the guy you go for? But then again, probably his transfer fee would be crazy, crazy money. And Juventus would definitely want crazy money for his service. So maybe that's what it is. Because in terms of ability, I think he is better than Garnacho, in my opinion. Because this is how I feel about things. If you're going to sign a player that would keep a young player out, which is fine. If you're going to sign a player that would keep a young player out, that player must be better than that young player. I don't think you should be signing a player that comes in to develop, that needs 2, 3 years, and then you don't develop the ones from your academy. For me, that's something I just don't really, you know, agree with. It feels odd to me. If you're signing a player that's coming in to take the spot of a young player, it should be a player that is ready to come in, plug and play, start delivering from day one. Because it makes no sense to me when you sign a player that is in 1920s, still needs time to develop, and you have lots of players, in the academy that don't even have a shot. For me, that's an issue. Although the likes of Genesis Antwi have been given opportunities to fair play in that regard, I don't know how much he will get to play for the first of the season. He did play a couple of minutes in the conference league last season, so maybe he could be the next one up. Fair play, Maresca has given a few opportunities like Josh Archempong, and Josh Archempong, for me, just makes me feel like, in terms of incomings, Chelsea doesn't really need to go and sign a centre back. I don't think so, because you've got Josh already, you've got Tosin already, you've got Chaloba already, you've got Aaron Ansumin already. I don't see the reason for you to go out there and sign a defender, especially if you're not going to sign top-notch, world-class defender ready to go now. So, like I said, except you're going to get an Antonio Silva from Benfica, maybe give Bajashil and Disasi to them, then there's no point going to get any defender. Because if you're getting one, you're getting one that's coming in right now, ready to perform right now. So the Nkapie deal is kind of intriguing, but the way Josh Archempong has improved, and I don't even see from the standpoint of, don't block his way. I think he is good enough. He's shown he's good enough. He did make that mistake, against Bayern Munich, and that's a mistake anyone else can make. But after he made the mistake, he got up on his feet, dusted himself up, and was impervious the whole game. So I'm more than happy with Josh being that centre back. I think he is really a multi-talented player. I think he's one that actually plays centre back and do a decent job at right back as well. So I think you have him in the team alongside Chaloba, alongside Tosin. And don't forget as well, while the Fofana is there, you can manage his minutes. So fair play, I think that is stacked up. In midfield as well, I don't see any need to get any player there because it's super stacked. It's locked up. Right now, you've got Esigo, Caicedo, Enzo, Fernandez, Andre Santos. It's locked up. There's no need to say you want to get anybody in there. And then right wing for me, Pedro Neto, Esvai William. I think that's kind of done. That's kind of set as well. And then the left wing, that's where it should be locked up, in my opinion. Because if you have Tyreek George and Gittins, I think that should be it. Except you're getting one of these levels left wingers. Nico Williams, you can't get him. That's done. He signed a 10-year contract with Bilbao and on heavy wages as well. And we know when it comes to heavy wages and Chelsea in this era, it doesn't mix. So you're not getting him. And then Kenan Yildiz, you're probably not getting him as well because he's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of money from Juventus. That's what they're going to demand. And his way demand as well may be slightly on the high side. So I don't think, is a deal that will happen. But though it's good, man. Yildiz is good. Yildiz is the real deal. If we're getting Yildiz instead of Garnacho, I would have been more eager, like get him in, get him in, get him in. But Garnacho, if that's the decision of the club, just accept it and watch what he does, basically. And then the striking role, I think, is locked up as well. We've got Liam Delap and Jao Pedro, so that's locked up. It's just that 10 role where I think you need some support. That's why I'm more interested in getting Xavi Simons in than Garnacho because Palmer is only 10. He is only 10. And if he's injured, we're in trouble. If he's having a poor run of form, we're in trouble. If he's tired in games, that he will be tired in games because you're not playing Conference League football. You're playing Champions League football, serious, serious football. And then the Premier League. And just like Enzo Maresca said, last season he was trying to manage expectations. He didn't want to put that much pressure on the players, saying things like, "Okay, we're not in the title race," but now he says we're going for everything. And if you're going for everything, you need to have at least two top players in the same position. So I think that 10 role is one place you need players. So possibility of the Riyadh Air deal could happen. Talk about between 60 to 80 million pound deal. Let's see if it's indeed concrete. I think probably to be between 55, 65 or 70 million. I think that would still be a good deal. I know a lot of us are super excited. Club World Cup champions should be getting share deals of 100 million. Well, I think you do well to get that sort of deal. So I'm open to it. I think the mock-up jerseys we've seen, they look good. And I just want consistent. I just want a deal that's for like 2 or 3 years at least, as opposed to these short-term things that you have with DMAC and the rest. You want those consistent revenues coming in. Jackson, where would he end up? I think Jackson may just end up staying at Chelsea. He may end up staying at Chelsea because I've not seen any concrete offer. We've heard all this talk about different, clubs having him on their long list. When does he get to be on the short list of clubs? So that is a problem, in my opinion. I just think that I think it would be difficult to, get him on the books because most clubs they had supposedly as you had Newcastle, but they're going somewhere else. Manchester United went somewhere else. Who else? The City were interested in West Ham. I don't think so. So where would he go to? An evaluation of the player, say 90 million, 80 million. I'm not sure anyone is going to sort of pay the sort of funds. So nah. So he may end up very well staying at Chelsea, and that would make things really awkward because Jackson is someone that solves a lot. So if he doesn't get to play, that would be a problem. So just need him to go to a club where he actually will get to play, in my opinion. Because right now, nah. I just think and what's his face, Jao Pedro, that's what Chelsea need right now. Jackson has had his time, and the point of having a third choice striker doesn't really sit right. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think even Enzo Maresca would want that. I don't think he would want to have 3 strikers because that's just awkward. I think that's overkill. That's just overkill in my opinion. So, those opinions on what we've discussed so far, transfer deals or linked, do you still want the likes of Jackson to stay? Do you think we'll be able to even sell the Sterling? I don't think that is even going to happen because the wage demands are just so much. So maybe he goes on a loan. So let's see how that happens. And I want to also say this. I said it at the top of the show as well. Something Chelsea really did well, which was giving a part of the winnings of the Club World Cup to the families of the late Diego Jota and his brother's families. I think that was really classy from the club. And I'll say kudos to all the teams all the people that were involved in making that decision, from players to coaches to the management staff, the board, and all that. I think that was a really, really classy way to go because we're always rivals, but uh, every now and again, you have to show that we're more humans than rivals. So that was really, really top class from Chelsea. And then there's one other thing I don't really want to talk about, but I'll just highlight it. Don't fall into the trap, the trap set by the likes of Jimmy Carragher and even what's his face, Laurie Jennings or whatever. Don't fall into the trap. If for whatever reason, they say things, that's what they do. Because in this era of clicks, engagement, notoriety, once people know they can say anything and that gets people in a frenzy, they'll say it because once they say it, it gets you in a frenzy. They get to go on one morning show or the other to talk about it. They get gigs, they get things to talk, they get shows where they go to explain themselves. Oh, I didn't mean to say this. And all those gigs are paid gigs. So the best reward for people who speak anyhow is just no response, no engagement, nothing. That's the best way to pay folks like that back, in my own opinion. So going on to say Chelsea are not going to come out from the Champions League group when you even haven't seen the Champions League group is just weird. You just know he's just trying to rile Chelsea fans up. That just rile fans up 101. It's pretty basic in my opinion because say, oh, Chelsea won't be in the top four. We know Jimmy Carragher. We know what it's all about. He's never really liked Chelsea, so but he knows, but he can't seem to keep Chelsea out of his lips because he knows once he says it, he gets people to talk about it. So let's keep it moving. So Nkunku to Bayern, possibility. RB Leipzig also interested, but his wages could be an issue for them. Plus no Champions League football. Personal opinions on that. If you're going to join the stream, Can Chukwuemeka could be going to Dortmund since he wants to stay at Dortmund. He rather prefers to stay at Dortmund, and that he doesn't want to play for Chelsea anymore because he doesn't like the way the club treats players. So his boy is left, Madueke has left. So probably he'll be feeling very, very lonely if he comes back to Chelsea. So fair play for me. If a player's head has left the club, yeah, I think he should go. So Prince says, yeah, Jimmy looking for more publicity. That's it. So in this era, is to stay relevant. And how do you stay relevant in this era? It's people talking about you. So the more people talk about you, the more you trend. That's how you stay relevant in sort of media, sports talk industry, and talk industry generally. So that's it. And then, of course, we talked about Renato Veiga. Renato Veiga seems like the guy that wants to go anywhere. He's open for and ready for anything. So Benfica, he said personal terms will not be a problem. Dortmund, he said personal terms will not be a problem. So he's willing to go anywhere. It's just sad that he didn't work out at Chelsea. At some point, Enzo Maresca didn't fancy him anymore. He chose to go on loan, which is fine by me. So I think it's fair play for him to leave as well. I think Chelsea should be able to get a deal done with Benfica for Veiga. If I get 35 million euros, I'm good. I'm good with that for Veiga to leave, in my opinion. So there's no need to overprice him. Get him off the books because he's not going to play. He's not going to play because what I've noticed with Enzo Maresca is once you're not in that preseason training camp, you don't ever get to be part of the team training anymore. We saw it with Raheem Sterling last season. Once the preseason was over, after preseason there was the training camp. Sterling wasn't part of it. That just meant Sterling was not going to be part of the team going forward. So Veiga has not been training with the team, so he should be gone. Disasi as well have been training on his own, and videos coming out of him working out, looking like a gladiator, but he's not the kind of defender for Enzo Maresca. Put it this way: if I had to choose between Disasi and Badeshu, I would choose Disasi all day because I know what I can get from Disasi. I can get a game where you want to hold on for dear life. You see Disasi come through, sit back, defend deep, protect the goalkeeper, be an additional centre back. But Badashil, I don't trust him that much. Just a personal opinion. Olazi Olazili says, I hope I'm pronouncing him right, but why is Chelsea making it so difficult to make Javi Simons deal? So I think what we've been saying at the top of the show is this, Ola, is that Chelsea want to make sure they get some outgoing done before going on to complete the deal for Garnacho and Javi Simons. And that's understandable because I think Chelsea have done a lot of spending, and right now they're on the edge of PSR and FFP, all sort of things. So you want to make sure you're always in black, you're always on the positive side of PSR, which I think is how would I say? I just think it's not what it's cracked up to be, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think it's set out to achieve other things, but it claims to want to help with other things. So I think those outgoings need to be done. I know we as fans we want incomings, give us, give us, give us, give us, give us, but we need to get players out of the building first before you get players in. We can't be stockpiling, so we need to sell a little more. Yeah, Prince, I agree. I agree with that, Prince. We can't be stockpiling. We need to get sell a little more. Yeah, that's true. That's super super correct, in my opinion. I think one thing that would help Chelsea and Blue Co and Clear Lake going forward is to get another um, club within the Blue network club because Strasbourg is just one team. And Strasbourg, I don't think they're allowed to have 40 players registered on their books to play in the league. I think they also have their restrictions. So Chelsea Blue needs to get another club in the network, maybe in Portugal. And for me, I think Chelsea should stop being, how do I say it? In my neck of the woods, we call it big eye. So, but I stop looking for the big dogs always. Because I think Chelsea was supposedly interested in Sporting Lisbon. And Sporting Lisbon is one of the biggest clubs in Portugal, and they are not desperate to actually, sell controlling stakes in the club because they always sell players. They have a very good academy. They always sell players. Leao was a product of the Lisbon Academy. Cristiano Ronaldo was a product of Lisbon Academy. You're correct. Though he wasn't a product of Lisbon Academy, was sold to Arsenal. He was sold from Sporting Lisbon. He scored lots of goals for Sporting Lisbon. So they're not really desperate to sell. And I'm sure if you're a controlling shareholder in Sporting Lisbon, I don't think you want to lose that to someone else. But I will always say there's always a price for everything. But I think maybe go for a mid-tier level club, to buy Portugal, and then you can have your players go. So it's called opportunistic buying. Yeah, Chelsea are always doing the opportunistic buying. But when it applies to players I want Chelsea to be opportunistic about, they haven't done it. Like Ryan Cherky, I really, really wanted Ryan Cherky at Chelsea. I just felt like Ryan Cherky in some games combining with Palmer or starting instead of Palmer when Palmer needs to rest could be absolutely magical. But we're not interested in getting Cherky because Cherky was about 25 million euros, 35 million euros, something ridiculous like that. So they didn't go for him. So Sporting Lisbon, I think, as a network club, won't work. Maybe Benfica as well won't work. Porto won't work. These three, I think maybe the likes of your Rio Ave, Ceremoniense, I think probably those ones could work. You get them, and then you have your talents there, as well. And there's a winger that looks like he should be heading to Strasbourg, but there are other clubs interested as well, and that's Samuel Edozie. I want him to go to Strasbourg so he can show what he can do and come to Chelsea afterwards. But with Quenda coming in, maybe that doesn't work out, and Garnacho is already coming in at that left wing, so that doesn't probably won't work out. So if you're just joining the stream, thanks for joining. Hope you subscribe to the channel of this Up Chelsea TV, a channel for Chelsea fans. Come let your thoughts known about what you think is going on with Chelsea, transfer dealings, starting lineup. And once the season starts, we'll be having, post-game reactions on here, live stream, so you can come join us then as well. So that means on Sunday, once the match is done, where would you want to come? This is where you want to come to Up Chelsea TV, and let's have a nice discussion. And hopefully, that would be off the back of a win, a Chelsea win. Hopefully Chelsea gets to defeat Crystal Palace. I don't want any ball, any annoying draw like we had last season drawing away to Crystal Palace. Because for me, I said this season, success for me this season will be being the best of the rest. If there's a good title run or if Chelsea wins the title, of course I'll be there for it. But right now, what I see as success is Chelsea, finishing third comfortably, winning maybe an FA Cup, and going as far as possible in the Champions League. And that's it. That will be a successful season for me. And then build off on that onto next season, in my opinion. That's why I see it's a successful season. But if the season starts to pan out like Chelsea are going to come for the league, then go for it. As Maresca said, this season we go for everything, absolutely everything. Just like King United, you give them nothing, and you take everything. So Enzo Maresca, I'm invoking his inner Spartan. So let's see what happens if Chelsea can really, push that hard this season. But for me, going for Champions League for one, that's what I want. And then getting a cup in the trophy cabinet, that's the FA Cup or Champions League if you can. But don't be 20 points off Liverpool at all. And funny enough, I think teams like Liverpool wouldn't be the problem for Chelsea. Teams like Liverpool, teams like Man City, teams like Arsenal wouldn't be the problem for Chelsea. I think more teams like Brentford may be a problem for Chelsea. Maybe Sunderland, maybe. Burnley, I don't think will be a problem because of the way what's his face wants to play Scott Parker. I don't know if he's learned his lesson. He wants to play that expansive football. Wouldn't be a problem for Chelsea. So I think those traditional top 4, top 6 clubs won't be a problem. But now Spurs might be a problem. I know they lost. They absolutely blew the lead. Against PSG, they had PSG dead to rights, 2-0 up, and then just found some way to Spursy up the shop and threw away the lead. So, but the way he wants to get them to play, I think by the time Chelsea would have played them would be, they probably would have come to terms with how he wants to play, and that would be Brentford on steroids because arguably Spurs have more resources than Brentford. So that could be a worrying team to come against. But on the other side of things, Chelsea probably the start of the season is, I wouldn't say easy, but it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, Spurs doing Spursy stuff. Yeah, yeah. But that Spurs game, sorry for talking about Spurs one here, but it won't be for that long. It was funny. The game 2-0 because Spurs they scored perfectly. First goal towards the end of the first half. Second goal started the second half. So you say, wow, now they're going to win this. And then push. In how many minutes they conceded 2 goals and the game was done. So talking about start of the season, Chelsea would be getting is I think it's a start where you could get straight 15 points. And if you start the season very well, who knows? You start the season top of the league after the first 5 games. I think that could put Chelsea in a good spot. I want for me right now, Chelsea, you beat all the teams that are beneath you. You beat every other team. And then you can pull off points from your Arsenals, your Liverpools, your Man Cities, pull off points of them. I think one thing with Liverpool is, I've seen some people making this mistake of saying, you know what, when Salah goes on loan, Frimpong is going to be his replacement. And I beg Arne Slot, please, from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Arne Slot, please play Frimpong as a right winger, please, because he's not the right winger. And as a right back, he's super attacking, and that creates space. That will create a space behind him, and he can attack for days. Kekec as well. He's a better defender than Frimpong, in my opinion, but I still think he'll be so attack-minded that you'll have a lot of spaces in behind. So if you're just joining, thanks for joining. Hope you subscribe to the channel. If you're new, do share this video to people you feel will love content like this. And I've said it before, we will be having post-match reaction live streams on here. So once the game is done, the Chelsea game is done every weekend. this is where you come to, and we can have a nice discussion about the game, react to the game, talk about more wins than losses, hopefully, talk about more goals scored and more goals considered, hopefully. And hopefully it's a good day. So that means it's Sunday. Once the game is done with Crystal Palace, let's all be here. I'll share the link on X. And then, of course, if you want to join the chat, I'll drop the chat link or the link to the chat in the comment section, and you can click and then you can join. So thanks so much for everyone who's watched this stream, who supported this video. Thank you so much. And I stream live every day on here. So Monday through to Sunday, every day, 7 days a week. So hopefully to see you on just another video. But for now, it's a big thank you for joining. Big thank you for subscribing. Big thank you for clicking on the notification bell so you're notified each time I go live on this channel. And thanks for sharing this video to as many people as you have done. And I'll see you on yet another video. So stay well and stay blessed. Bye-bye.